Hey everyone, it's Pastor Steve on the Inner Circle. The snow is melting in my yard finally. I'm definitely done with the snow and the ice. I just want spring. But regardless of all that, we're still in the midst of winter. We could get a lot more winter weather, so we just got to buckle down and deal with it. But I want to talk to you today about a king in the book of Second Chronicles. He's actually David's great grandson. His name is Asa, and I was just reading, on my Bible reading plan this morning, and just some things really stuck out to me. Yeah, and before I dive into it, I just want to say, I really believe the church right now, at least in America, but probably all over the world, is going through a sifting period right now, where the Lord is sifting out those who are really truly seeking His face, and those who are just kind of, on the fringe, kind of got one foot in the church, one foot out in the world. Don't really, maybe it's part of their culture, maybe it's part of their family culture, whatever, but it's not, they haven't had a real heart encounter with the Lord where they've made Him Lord of their life. And I believe you're going to see a lot of that part of the population of the church kind of just fade away, probably in the next year or two, or at least few years, just because the amount of things that the church is about to go through is gonna sift people. It's gonna test us. We're gonna be tried in the fire, and that's not something to be afraid of. Just remember that no matter what we go through, the Lord has always promised He would never leave or forsake us. So He's gonna walk us through the water, walk us through the fire, and we're gonna come out victorious on the other side. We always win as long as we stay with Him. Because He's the victorious one. We live in His victory. We walk in His victory. So, there's nothing to be afraid of when I say things like that. But I believe I'm already starting to see signs of it. I've noticed, over the last year with COVID and with just everything going on politically in the country. The love of some, you can see, is growing cold, and that's not to be judgmental. I'm not saying if you're not in church, you do not love the Lord. There's some people that just really, it's not safe for them to be there. They're in the vulnerable population, and there's no judgment there whatsoever. And I'm not the one to sit in judgment. I'm just saying, I can kind of see patterns, or I can see just a trend going on. Where I see two trends actually. There's one trend where I see some people kind of just easing and letting go, and kind of getting a little lazy in their walk with the Lord, in seeking His face, and taking the things of God seriously. And then on the other side of the coin, there are people that all of a sudden are just waking up. They're getting serious. They're digging in. They're becoming more fervent and passionate about seeking the Lord, and that's awesome too. And that's why I say I think that we're going through a sifting period right now. But anyway, I want to talk about Asa in Second Chronicles. What happened is Asa is King David's great grandson. Now David sinned in a big way in his life, and what transpires a couple generations later is really judgment for that sin. We all know that he slept with Bathsheba. It was another man's wife, and then on top of that sin, he added murdering her husband to cover up that sin. So although he repented sincerely and the Lord forgave him, there was still judgment handed down, and the judgment was that God would rip part of the kingdom away from his family. And so we see after Solomon, with Rehoboam, that's David's first grandson, that 10 tribes basically desert and leave the dynasty of David and say, we're going to do our own thing, and only Judah and Benjamin hang on under the dynasty of David. And it was the Lord's doing. So that was part of the judgment that was the result of that sin in David's life. But then what we see through First and Second Kings and Chronicles and all that is this history of these two lineages. One is under Jeroboam. That's the 10 tribes of Israel that kind of just left the dynasty of David and went under Jeroboam. And the Judah and Benjamin were the mostly Judah, but I think Benjamin hangs on for a while. That stay loyal to the dynasty of David. And so this is David's great-great-grandson. He's king over Judah and Benjamin. And they are still staying loyal to the Lord. Israel is already starting to let go. You see that trend, what I was talking about. Their fire for the Lord is waning. Their love is growing cold. They're being seduced by other things. And, that separation, that sifting is beginning to happen in Israel. And it's only a couple generations after David's gone. So what happens is, Asa becomes king. He does what's pleasing in the sight of the Lord. The Lord blesses him, gives him peace on every side. He's able to do some things that other kings before him aren't able to do because of that peace. But then we see in 2 Chronicles 14, this king of Ethiopia comes and invades Judah with a 1,000,000-man army, 1,000,000. And basically, I think Judah has just a little over 500,000 troops. So they're outnumbered 2-1 with a 1,000,000-man army coming against them. But they serve the Lord. They cry out to God, and God gives them a great victory. Just routs the enemy, and they honor God. They walk with him. They seek his face sincerely and passionately, and so God honors them. And then we come into 2 Chronicles 15, which is where I'm going to start reading. It says, "Then the Spirit of God came upon Azariah, son of Oded, and he went out to meet King Asa as he was returning from battle. 'Listen to me, Asa,' he shouted. 'Listen, all you people of Judah and Benjamin. The Lord will stay with you as long as you stay with him. Whenever you seek him, you will find him. But if you abandon him, he will abandon you. For a long time, Israel was without the true God, without a priest to teach them, and without the law to instruct them. But whenever they were in trouble and turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him out, they found him. During those dark times, it was not safe to travel. Problems troubled the people of every land. Nation fought against nation, and city against city, for God was troubling them with every kind of problem. But as for you, be strong and courageous, for your work will be rewarded.' When Asa heard this message from Azariah the prophet, he took courage and removed all the detestable idols from the land of Judah and Benjamin and in the towns he had captured in the hill country of Ephraim. And he repaired the altar of the Lord, which stood in front of the entry room of the Lord's temple. Then Asa called together all the people of Judah and Benjamin, along with the people of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, who had settled among them. For many from Israel had moved to Judah during Asa's reign when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. The people gathered at Jerusalem in late spring, during the 15th year of Asa's reign. On that day, they sacrificed to the Lord 700 cattle and 7,000 sheep and goats from the plunder they had taken in the battle. Then they entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, with all their heart and soul. They agreed that anyone who refused to seek the Lord, the God of Israel, would be put to death, whether young or old, man or woman. They shouted out their oath of loyalty to the Lord with trumpets blaring and ram's horns sounding. All in Judah were happy about this covenant, for they had entered into it with all their heart. They earnestly sought after God, and they found him. And the Lord gave them rest from their enemies on every side." And I really believe we have a choice in front of us as a church in America and probably greater, more big, globally. I'm not as up to date with what's going on with the church around the world, but I live in America, so I'm more up to date with where the church is, at least in this country. But I believe, at least in this country, we have a choice in front of us. Do we enter into this covenant to seek the Lord with all our heart and all our soul? Or do we let, like the tribes of Israel, those 10 tribes that did not stay with the dynasty of David, do we let our love grow cold, and do we fall away and just become like the world? And there's a real battle in the spiritual realm over this choice that those in the church have to make right now. I can feel it even myself. There's days where I'm like, man, I don't feel like going to church, when I always would look forward to going to church. There's a spiritual life behind this that's pushing us in that direction. It's like, go like the 10 tribes of Israel. Let your love grow cold. That's not important. That's just, but I've determined in my heart, I'm going to seek the Lord's face with all my heart and soul. And I believe that all of us are going to come to a valley of decision soon where we have to make that choice. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the things that force that choice is persecution on the church. So I'm not saying that, all of a sudden the church is going to be rounded up and imprisoned and slaughtered and all that like that. But I'm just saying it's going to get harder and harder to maybe follow the Lord. If we make the choice to seek him with all our heart and soul, he's going to give us rest on every side. He's going to give us victory. We will walk in his victory. He will walk through the water and the fire with us. We won't be harmed. But it won't always be easy. So I'm not going to try to sell you something that's just not true. Again, walking with the Lord sometimes is hard, but it's always worth it. And you never regret it. And you always go from height to height to height when you do. So I want to encourage you guys, prepare yourself, prepare your heart, make your choice of where you're going to fall in this sifting process, because it's going to happen. That's all I want to share with you. I hope the Holy Spirit is on it to be able to illuminate or give you a revelation on it. And I hope that he's on it to empower you to make the choices that will be good for you and your family. I love you guys. Can't wait to worship with you again in church. It's just been awesome. The services we've been having, God's just moving in a special way. And I think it's because of the times that we were called to live in. I love you guys. I'll see you on Sunday. Bye.